Welcome to the ENA2 webinar today, where we're going to be looking at Abaqus and how we can improve your workflow. So on today's agenda, we're just going to go over about us. We're going to talk about Abaqus, the product overview, the product benefits, the packaging, the licensing and pricing, and any questions you may have. So as we work through the presentation, if you do have any questions, just put it in the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we'll look at it and we'll answer those. So just to start, we're going to talk about our company profile. So ENA2 is an engineering consulting firm based out of Calgary, Alberta. We do specialize in the technology, energy, and commercial sectors. We currently have 13 employees, and we've been operating since 2008. And some of the services we provide is, as I talked about before, engineering consulting. We do software sales for both Global and Dassault Systèmes, and we are also a certified training center. So just to talk about our presenters. So we have two presenters today. First, we have Vishnu, who is a mechanical engineer with a strong background in CFD. Hold on, there we go. So he worked in Dassault Systèmes at the Center of Excellence in Detroit before coming to Calgary to join the team. And then we also have Kevin, who is a structural engineer. He completed his master's in finite element analysis in concrete structures. So I will pass it over to Kevin first, and he will start us out.
Thanks, Michael. So first, I would like to introduce what Abaqus is. So Abaqus is an industry-leading general-purpose finite element analysis software with an extensive range of functions, which make it highly suitable for modeling linear, nonlinear, static, and dynamic simulations. Because of this, it's applicable to basically all areas of engineering or any field in which requires modeling of physical events. So there are three main applications that come with Abaqus. Abaqus CAE is the graphical user interface, or GUI application, where much of the pre- and post-processing will be done. It contains all the solver's capabilities and model information. Abaqus Command, on the other hand, is used to submit and control jobs using only command lines. And last, we have Abaqus Viewer, which is used only for post-processing and output review using the GUI. So let's talk about some of the features of Abaqus. First and foremost, Abaqus' main feature is its powerful standard and explicit solvers, whose ability to produce accurate results for highly nonlinear phenomena is well documented across industry and academia. Abaqus has both solvers built in under one software package, and this is helpful because if you have a multi-step analysis, you don't have to jump between solvers every time a step is finished. Abaqus has exceptional pre-processing capabilities, such as flexible geometry processing. It can accept CAD imports under a wide range of formats, including IGS, STEP, and ACES from such CAD programs like SolidWorks, CATIA, and AutoCAD. It can also be directly interfaced with Dassault CAD softwares like SolidWorks and CATIA for instant geometry updates. So even though Abaqus is an FEA program, it has many characteristics of a dedicated CAD software. Once you import models, it gives you many options to clean up and change the geometry, and you can also create geometries entirely within Abaqus. So Abaqus also has advanced meshing techniques and an extensive library of elements with multiple formulations to suit your applications. One of the biggest advantages in meshing with Abaqus ties back with the ease in which you can edit your CAD geometry, as brought up in the previous point. So if you wanted to create a high-quality mesh, you can manipulate your model directly by adding partitions or other features to simplify your geometry, which means that you have excellent control over how you want to create your meshes. As well, Abaqus has robust contact formulations, which give you a wide range of tools needed to simulate such events as, for example, sliding between two bodies, friction, impact, and bond between two materials. Abaqus also has procedures for specific applications. For example, you can perform crack propagation analysis using the extended finite element method, or XFEM, technique built into the graphical user interface. The Abaqus algorithm using this method is robust and unbiased, since crack formation and propagation is independent of your model mesh and whether you have an initial crack present or not. Users can also perform an analysis called coupled Euler-Lagrange analysis, which is useful if you want to simulate contact involving highly deformable or semi-solid materials, like in the excavation you see on the right hand with the soil undergoing high deformations. Abaqus also has a built-in module which allows you to perform structural optimization. You can interface Abaqus with Tosca and FESafe. By preparing your models in Abaqus, you can import them to Tosca for optimization or to FESafe for fatigue analysis. Once you finish the analysis in Tosca or FESafe, you can transfer the results back to Abaqus to see the output. Also, you can use the Python language to write scripts which can help you automate tests. And you can also write your own subroutines, for example, if you want to specify custom material properties. Subroutines in Abaqus are typically compiled in Fortran. So let's go over some of the industries in which Abaqus is applied. For example, aerospace and defense is a major industry where you can use Abaqus. For example, if you wanted to model the rotation of a composite blade, or if you wanted to determine the thermal structural effects of a jet engine, or even the consequences of a bird strike on a component, like you see in the top picture. In the transportation industry, Abaqus can be used to perform analysis on vehicular components. For example, you can perform a crash test on a car to see how the crumples and buckles under different velocities. And you can perform dynamic stress analysis on a suspension system subject to road irregularities. And also, you can do tire-soil interaction to find out how effective your tread design is under poor surface conditions, like you see in the middle picture. Another industry under the mechanical field is manufacturing, where you can use Abaqus to model various cold-form metal processes like drawing, forming, punching, and rolling. As well, you can also optimize the weight and stiffness of parts like a crane hook. And of course, because Abaqus has an excellent explicit dynamic solver, you can model high-impact events such as the drop testing of a cell phone. So here are some more applications of Abaqus. Of course, in structural engineering, FEA is important because we want to understand the behavior of structures and their components. So let's say, for example, if we have a bolt connection in a steel moment frame that has an initial flaw at one of the bolt posts, we can use extended finite element method to model how the crack propagates as the connection becomes loaded in service. Abaqus also has dedicated material models, for example, for defining concrete behavior. So we can, as an example, also simulate and predict failure in the floor slab of a high-rise building. Also, we can use dynamic explicit analysis to find the mode shapes of a building under seismic loads like you see in the picture on the left. Abaqus is useful in mining and energy industries where machine components are used for operations. For example, in the top right animation, you can see the stress distribution of a drill bit as it's driving into the rock. You can also use Abaqus for bulk material transport, simulating the stresses on the conveyor systems as raw material are being loaded, transported, and deposited. And finally, you can perform blast wall analysis to see how well your structure protects people against explosions. And finally, Abaqus can even be applied to biomedical engineering and life sciences. For example, in the bottom picture, you can see the stress distribution of a stent as it's being deployed in a heart artery. You can also perform analysis and optimization of prosthetic limbs and model fracture behavior of a hip joint. I will now pass it over to Vishnu, who will talk more about platform benefits, licensing, and packaging.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. So Kevin touched base upon the technical capabilities of Abaqus, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of Abaqus as a product. One of the major benefits we have is that Abaqus is very easy to use. It begins with the fact that Abaqus is a one-stop shop, so everything from pre-processing to post-processing can be completely addressed within a single solution. This removes the need for having to switch between softwares to complete a specific portion of your simulation workflow, like meshing, for example. It's got a very easy to understand and an intuitive user interface, primarily because it has a very strong organization when you are preparing your simulation models, such as the tree structure you can see in the picture on the right. In addition to that, if you prefer to change the controls to something that you are more comfortable with, such as controls in CATIA or SolidWorks, you can do so within Abaqus's pre-custom template options for view manipulations. One of the biggest strengths we have with Abaqus is that the simulation can be built to any level of complexity that you prefer. And this is because we have elemental simulation procedures, what we call as steps, available within Abaqus. This gives the flexibility for the user to prepare the simulation in any way that he possibly wants. To keep it in a more macroscopic sense, we talk about Abaqus in terms of how it complements with other solutions, such as EyeSight for design automation, Tosca Structure for structural optimization and fluid-based optimization, and FESafe for your durability analysis. You can see the picture at the bottom right where you can see how the brake rotors are optimized in this process. You start with the physics exploration by running your FEA simulations within Abaqus, decide what are your initial designs going to be, and perform a process optimization by leveraging EyeSight. And if you prefer to take it a step further, you can do light weighting of the product by the means of Tosca Structure, and then you can perform durability analysis using FESafe until you reach to a point where you can virtually sign off on the product. So this gives you a complete understanding of how you can develop your product design not only from an FEA standpoint, but also addressing other issues of your products or determining and ensuring that you are guaranteeing your customers the product performance that's stated. Another benefit that we have with Abaqus is that it has very strong interoperability features. So you remove the traditional import and export operations that would otherwise have to be done from CAD packages, and that leads to a lot of cleanup issues. Bottom line is that the engineer spends a lot of time in cleaning up either the CAD or the mesh, which prolongs the simulation preparation process. So to prevent this, we have interoperability that directly connects Abaqus to a CAD package by the means of the port numbers, as you can see in the picture on the right, and that prevents the requirement of it being saved on disk space for really large geometries, and you're guaranteed for the clean import of the geometry along with its hierarchical structure. You can propagate geometry changes if you were to make in the CAD package after you've imported the geometry into Abaqus, and this will not affect any of the existing changes that you have within Abaqus CE. And lastly, we have a lot of interface options available with leading CAD packages, such as SolidWorks or CATIA, and if you prefer to do so, we can also have package interfaces for third-party tools such as NXCAD. It's important to understand how Abaqus is packaged. We initially have an option of using Abaqus as a standalone, which is one of the products that belongs to what we call as the Power of Portfolio. So the Power of Portfolio is essentially comprised of 4 products, including Abaqus, Tosca for your structural or fluid-centric optimization, EyeSight for your process automation and optimization, and FESafe for your durability analysis. We have several licensing options, but the most common ones are YLC and PLC, which is yearly renewals and purchase of the software, and you can go in for annual maintenance as per your requirements. But an interesting feature we have with Abaqus is that you can leverage Abaqus by the means of a platform. So essentially, what we call is the 3D experience platform gives you access to several roles, and for each role, the users get access to several applications, ensuring that they can complete all of the tasks in the role. This can get a little bit confusing, which is why you can reach out to E&E2 to figure out what kind of a role should possibly help you in your daily tasks. And we'll be more than happy to help you out with it. Let's talk a little bit more about the platform. So why should we go in for a platform, and what is a platform to begin with? So a platform is basically a single operating system that works on a single source of truth or a single source of data. So this prevents inconsistency issues. This prevents the back and forth of transfer of data. And this also prevents the prolongation of the product, the time that is taken to go to the market with the product. And essentially, when we are referring to manufacturing companies, they have business units or departments that are completely disconnected from one another. For example, designers are disconnected from design engineers, who are disconnected from highly specialized simulation analysts, disconnected from the marketing and the sales department, so on and so forth. And the platform is a single solution that helps in connecting all of these, what we call as silos, to ensure that you can go to the market whilst addressing all of the requirements of the different departments with the product in a shorter amount of time and with minimal errors. Some of the major benefits by leveraging the 3D experience platform is that we have enhanced social collaboration, which means that you can communicate with other users and ensure that the designs are in check. It can be established either on-premise or on cloud, which would imply that you can just literally fire up the platform on a web browser if you prefer to do so. It's packaged by the means of roles and what we call as workflows, making it very easy for the user to adopt a platform. And it extends to engineering and non-engineering disciplines. So if you have anyone else in sales or marketing or procurement or finance, if you prefer to have their questions addressed, it can be done by the means of the platform. So business dashboarding gives us access to advanced tools that can help in processing and making sense of multiple data so that you can make key informed decisions about your product. And finally, every stakeholder who uses the platform will have a single front-end user experience, making it very easy for users to quickly adopt the platform. So to understand how you'll actually have to use Abaqus and the other products covered in the Power of Portfolio, let's touch base upon what really helps you in solving your problems, which is the solver, and that's done by the means of these extended tokens. So tokens grant the solver the computational power that is required for you to perform your simulation. And once a simulation or a job is completed, the tokens are replenished back into your main account. This is valid for other Power of Portfolio products too. So the same tokens that you use for Abaqus can be used for Eyesight, can be used for EpiSafe, and can be used for Tosca, so that can help you in addressing optimization, durability, and process automation. Licensing options are pretty common for the tokens, as we've covered in the previous set of slides. So we have yearly lease and the purchase options available. It's very important to look at the graph on the right. As you can see that initially the graph tends to be linear. However, it approaches to a plateau kind of a situation as you keep going for higher and higher cores. So this basically implies that as you keep increasing your cores, you're not really paying a lot more for the tokens, and therefore lesser tokens are required for you to solve simulations that demand more computational power, making it very beneficial for the user. And to give you a quick breakdown of what you actually get with the tokens is provided in this slide. So two features predominantly should stand out. As we keep increasing the number of tokens, your parallel computational capacity definitely increases because you have access to more cores and you can run more concurrent simulations. But then another thing to look at is the flexibility in terms of the kind of simulations that you can run. So you get access with Eyesight, Abaqus, EpiSafe, and Tosca's different optimization schematics, making it more easier for you to really make a true difference to your product development process. So we start out with about 2 to 4 tokens that gives you access to Eyesight's workflow. 5 tokens gives you Eyesight and Abaqus solvers. 7 tokens gives you everything covered in the 5 tokens plus EpiSafe for your durability analysis. 8 topens will cover everything with 7 tokens and gives you access to Tosca structure linear optimization. And 9 tokens gives you also the nonlinear and the fluid-based topology optimization. And the list just goes on and on as you keep increasing more tokens, giving you a lot of flexibility in the kind of simulations that you want to be running. And lastly, to touch base a little bit about the different offers we have available with Abaqus, we have a lot of promotions going on right now. So one of the most common promotions is the AFSMB, what we call as Abaqus for small, medium businesses. And it comes with 3 different elements. The first one being access to Abaqus CAE, but in addition to that, you also get access to the graphical user interface of the other products in the Power of the Portfolio. You can request orders for 5, 8, or 16 tokens, depending upon how you plan on using the products and the kind of simulations that you want to run. And we also provide associative interface options for SolidWorks or CATIA based on the needs and requirements of the user. And this comes in standard licensing options of yearly and purchase. And we also have optional packages such as going in just for increasing tokens if you are an existing Abaqus customer, and we have promotions going on for that as well. And if you want to learn more about the standard pricing for Abaqus or how you would plan on using Abaqus in the platform, feel free to contact Amy too. And on that note, I'm going to pass it on to Kevin for the conclusions.
Thanks, Vishnu. So to wrap up the webinar, today's webinar real quick, we gave a quick introduction to what Abaqus is and some of its features and the industries that it is applied in. We also covered some of the benefits of Abaqus as a standalone or as a Power of Portfolio and how it can be used on a platform under specific user roles. Finally, we touched base on licensing options, YLC and PLC, and we also talked about pricing and some of the ongoing promotions that we have right now. So with that, we'd like to thank you all for attending the webinar. If you have any questions, please type them out in the chat, and we will be online for the next while if you have any questions, and you can ask us directly.